Barry, we're recording this interview on Friday, the 22nd of May, although it may not be broadcast on the FM for another week or so later. Only in the last couple of days, there was a big announcement that apparently the restoration of the Navan railway line is back on track. Can you tell our listeners more about this story, Barry?
Yeah, this is a very important part of the overall development plans, not just for the rail network, but for the public transport network, Darren. We have, as people will know, up to 1963, there was a passenger rail line to Navan. It was closed at that time. It was part of the trends of that time. And I suppose over the last probably, couple of decades, really, there has been a lot of, demand for the re-establishment of a rail line to Navan. We delivered phase one of that in the late noughties, 2009-10, when we reopened the line from Clonsilla to M3 Parkway Station just north of Dunboyne. But I suppose the economic circumstance in the early 2010s put a halt to further development at that time. But thankfully, the economic situation has changed. The demand for public transport and for rail transport has increased dramatically. And we're now putting forward, we've published an emerging preferred route between M3 Parkway and Navan, a 34-kilometre route that would serve stations at Dunshaughlin, Kilmessan, and two stations in Navan Central and Navan North, to provide for a re-established rail service. So this is, I suppose, there's a process that we go through for a new railway line. We do 2 rounds of public consultation. This is the first round, which is the emerging preferred route, what we're, I suppose, kind of landing on for the route, and we get feedback from both commuters who may want to use the service and communities through whom we'll be developing the rail line. And then we will settle on the preferred route before we go to the formal planning application.
I don't know that Navan very well as a town, so it may not be as good as doing an interview with you as some other people would be from the town itself. But I find it interesting that, assuming the line goes ahead, which is planned, there could be 2 stations in Navan, couldn't there?
Yeah, there could. And I suppose what that's about is making sure that we've got, it's not just the direct areas where the stations are that we serve. It's about making sure that there's a wider catchment area. So Navan Central will be, as the name suggests, in the town itself, and the access to it will be very much about, primarily walking and cycling routes and people being dropped off there. But Navan North will be, I suppose, on the northern end of the town and have a significant car park and ride facility there. So that means that people from further afield will be able to drive to the station, park the car, take the train, and obviously avoid the congestion that would be experienced near the city centre. So the type of service frequency we're looking at is every 15 minutes, which will be a DART service that would operate. So effectively, we're already in the process of extending the DART to the likes of Maynooth and M3 Parkway as part of our plans, but this would be a further DART. So that's why, I suppose, Navan will have 2 stations. It's not unprecedented. Somewhere like Leixlip in County Kildare also has 2 stations, and if you look at areas, indeed, near us, or very near FM are based, Holt Junction and Kilbarrack, right, quite close to each other there, having 2 stations also.
Yeah, I think I remember an announcement when Noel Dempsey was Minister for Transport on the Navan line, and he's actually a TD from Meath, he was. So it has been planned for a long time, hasn't it?
It has, and I suppose, that's something that everybody, ourselves included, were very disappointed that we weren't able to progress with it at the time. We had literally got to the point where we were applying for planning for the line. But in 2011, and I don't have to remind people how bleak things were in 2011 in terms of the finances of the country and in terms of, I suppose, what was available to us for capital investment, there was a government decision at that time to cancel the project. So it has been a while in terms of bringing it back, but thankfully it is funded now. I suppose one of the more significant changes since that time is we're not simply bringing that old project back. What we've done is look along the areas in this kind of corridor up through Meath to see where a line should go. And 70% of it is around the old alignment, but we do veer significantly to better serve Dunshaughlin, to bring the railway line nearer to Dunshaughlin, as well as some other minor adjustments, primarily driven by the fact that there might have been some construction in the meantime that take us away from the original route. But one of the benefits of using the original route for the bulk of it is we have things like bridges over rivers that were part of the original railway that we can reuse, which from an environmental point of view is a lot easier than having to establish a new bridge or structure in a river or in other kind of sensitive environmental or nature areas.
Yeah, I personally live in Hansfield, and I use the train station in Hansfield regularly. I'm delighted that in a few years' time I'll be able to hop on the Dart to Navan,
Yeah, it's a great service, and I think that's an important point, is that it's not just, a lot of the time we can think of being very much kind of a Dublin city centre focused service, but it's opening up, Navan's a busy town, Dunshaughlin, Kilmessan growing towns as well, opens up opportunities there, means people have more choice in terms of where they work, where they study, where they socialise, and that's what I suppose public transport's all about.
Okay, Barry, I've done a couple of interviews with colleagues of yours on Near FM in the last 2 or so years about the Dart Plus projects to Maynooth and also the Dart Coastal route. Can you give our listeners today a bit of an update on how these projects are going on?
Yeah, we have the railway orders, which are the equivalent of planning permission for both of those, and indeed for the Dart Plus Southwest. So the Maynooth M3 Parkway, we have a railway order. We have it for the Coastal North project to Drogheda as well. We've just recently also gone out for public consultation on a new location for the depot that will maintain our new fleet. That's going to be in Kilcock, and what the benefit that will bring is it'll extend the double tracking to Kilcock. So they are all progressing. We would envisage that enabling works on Dart Plus West would start next year. The other aspect of Dart Plus that's hugely important are the new trains. They are in testing at the moment. They are scheduled into service in the first half of next year, of 2027, and they'll first go on the Dublin-Drogheda line because they're battery electric trains, the first of them. And what that means is that before we do the full electrification up to Drogheda, we'll be able to run these trains as far as Malahide under the electric wires, and then the batteries in the trains will power them between Malahide and Drogheda. So it means we can get these new trains in, get extra capacity into our system before the full electrification. So busy projects, busy times, and it's great that we have, as well, the support for those projects continuing.
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but am I right in saying that the main, or one of the top main reasons why the Dart is getting extended on lines where it was previously other trains is that the electric Darts are good for the environment, aren't they?
They very much are. I mean, you're powering directly in terms of lower emissions, in terms of lower noise. For people who are living beside the railway line, it's a huge improvement. They're also cheaper to run. They're cheaper to maintain. I mean, if you look at the original Darts that entered service in 1984, here we are 42 years later, and they're still in operation, and they will be for a few years more. So you really get a return on your investment with electric trains. That 40-year plus life isn't unusual. So it is, obviously there's climate action goals for the country in terms of decarbonisation, and while rail has a significant advantage over cars in terms of emissions, moving to electrification, particularly in our urban area, is something that will improve that advantage still further.
Okay, Barry, I also did an interview in the last year or so with another colleague of yours about the new train station plan to get built in Cabra. How is that going on? Can you tell me, Barry?
Well, that is something that is intended to be delivered in line with Dart Plus Southwest. So the Southwest project, its funding has just been put back a little bit. Cabra is to be developed under a separate planning permission. So we really, ultimately, suppose the plan always for that is that the two will happen together. We do think, and we're hoping, and we're working obviously with government to see, can the funding for Dart Plus Southwest be brought forward again to enable us to deliver it more quickly. And certainly, as well, the feedback we're getting is I think there might be support for that. So I think, from a practicality point of view, delivering the two together is the right thing to do. We have the railway order for Dart plus Southwest, but we will apply for a separate planning permission for a Cabra station.
Okay, I just have, I think, one more question, Barry, and I know that this is a government decision. Our government decision is needed on this, and that it's not in the complete remit of Iarnród Éireann to decide whether it will happen or not. But is it likely, can you tell me, do you think, that a railway line will be restored between Letterkenny and Derry City any time over the next several years?
Well, there is, under the All-Ireland Strategic Rail Review, which was developed by the Department of Transport here and the Department for Infrastructure in Northern Ireland. That is a proposal as part of that plan. That's a kind of a long-term strategic plan for the development of the railway. It brings us up to 2050. I think it's fair to say that as the schedule is set out at the moment, it would be the later part of that timeline that it will be delivered. And I know it's something I'm often asked about when I do interviews like this, Darren. People in Donegal are very, very keenly aware of the fact that they don't have a rail service, and obviously that connection with Derry would be something that would be a very strong one, given that the obvious economic activity that exists between County Donegal and Derry. So that is something that, as I say, is planned for in that later timescale, probably 2040 plus. But the framework to develop is there. And one thing we always say is, these plans can move forward. If we see, and I know that the local authorities in Donegal and Derry would look at this, if there's development that's driven along that proposed route, that obviously strengthens the case for bringing a rail line like that into operation much sooner.